Happy, what day is this? Wednesday? Happy Wednesday. I don't even remember. I travel so much, so sometimes I just kind of forget the days of the week. Our focus today is on nature. I think you know that. The inspiration it provides, the growing importance which nature plays in our lives, something that's reflected in some of our most recent forecasts, especially take center stage for spring, summer 2021 with Botanica. I'm going to start with a video. You do not need to look at me. Think of me as the person behind the curtain. Stay focused on the monitor. That's the visuals. That's really going to help tell the story. So let's hope I get this right. not just in our spring-summer 2021 forecast. Nature was also a huge focus for us in Viewpoint Color, in our most recent issues of Viewpoint Color, the last 3 issues, in fact, in different ways, in Textile View, a magazine that's created with our partner, Metropolitan Publishing, as well as another partner, same partner, in Trend House. And this is the color trend forecast for casual and active wear, athleisure, as you can see, for autumn-winter 2021-2022. Inextricably tied to the culture, we use the language of color to express who we are, how we feel, and to symbolize the message we want to send to the world. With nature top of mind for so many, it makes perfect sense that many of the key colors that we're seeing in trend come directly from nature. And while I don't think that many of us are ready to grow our own homes, at least I can speak for myself, I don't think I'm at that place. There is no question that nature is a true innovator, one that inspires all industries from creative design to logistical engineering, and that nature's colors and nature's perspectives influence the way we relate to the world around us, effortlessly achieving all of the design goals that humans set for themselves and strive to reach, whether it's beauty, functionality, which is a huge word today, circularity, another huge word today. There's also ruthlessness as well as beauty in nature's super efficient circular systems. Nothing is extraneous. There are no superfluous flourishes for the sake of embellishment. But at the same time, it's nature's infinite variation, irregularity, and flexibility is something we can all strive to emulate if we have the courage to relinquish control and let the natural color and the natural materials themselves influence the form and color appearance of our creations. But the question I started to ask myself is that why is it that we're seeing visual elements tied to nature become increasingly important to design thinking? We know this is not a new phenomenon. We know this is something that continues to grow and to grow and to grow. What is it that these visuals are saying to us that is resonating so deeply? Is it this realization that our natural resources are being destroyed through what some might consider negligent behavior that's finally getting our attention? Or do we also unconsciously understand that we get energy from nature, that it fuels our mind, it fuels our body, it enriches our soul? Is our response to nature then being guided by our focus on health and self-care and our desire to connect back to ourselves and live a more healthy and natural lifestyle? Maybe it's a result of our increasingly digitized lives, one is that it is experienced through a flat screen, where we can actually believe that we're experiencing a waterfall, but it's really just 3D effects that are creating that. Or we can walk through a kaleidoscope that is certainly futuristic, but is also completely devoid of the warmth and texture of physical touch, as is the push to robotics and the greater galaxy. Maybe it's our 24/7 lifestyles, which I know for myself I am certainly living. I have to imagine many of you in this room are living that as well. One where we are completely overloaded that is driving this thirst. Maybe for city dwellers, it's the concrete jungle packed with people with barely a hint of green or anything organic and natural that's driving this need and our desire to sync with nature. Or maybe it's all of the above, for there's nothing that enables us to completely decompress than our ability to connect back to nature. Physiologically affecting the nervous system, causing us to breathe slowly and deeply, helping the heart to relax by slowing down the production of stress hormones, the color family, which we at Pantone and the Pantone Color Institute always refer to as nature's neutral, because that's really what it is. The greens help us to revive, to restore, and renew. It's all about the re word: revive, reinvigorate, restore, renew, replenish, rebalance. This could mean something as simple as a walk in the park during the day to refresh and again reinvigorate, taking a break, shutting down the computer, just going outside and getting into green, as well as some more drastic measures that include an escape to a more remote location. You notice here the color of the house. It's a spa color. It's a spa blue. What says more relaxation than these cooler greens and blues? It's just decompression out in the woods. Some may want to travel deep into the woods and completely submerge themselves into an experience far removed from everyday life that connects them to the wilderness of their surroundings. Reflecting the sustenance and nourishing balance we're craving, as well as the need to rejuvenate, it makes sense then that the greens, this color family symbolic of the physical beauty and inherent unity of the natural world, is the first color family that comes to mind when we think of nature, and is the color family that continues its ascendance across the spectrum. Some of what I'm showing you is from spring 20, some is fall 19, but this is forward and forward and forward. Some of the greens are blue inflected, some are teal, so again that blend of the blues and the greens. It could be the yellow-based greens, including the mustards, olive tones, the more vibrant yellow greens. And then there are those who don't even seem to want to leave the garden life behind, so they're taking it with them. I love the woman in the middle. Obviously, it's a runway shot. Obviously, nobody's walking around like that, but I think it completely conveys the message. This is all about nature. This is all about beauty and natural beauty. Colors that appear to emanate directly from the great outdoors also reflect our desire to spend time in nature. Here, too, the greens play a role, as do the earthy taupes and browns, or earthy taupes and grays, browns as well. Also, we're starting to see a lot more of these autumnal spicy shades. So again, it's these burnished oranges or orange inflected browns. And again, it's all about what's natural. When you think of this color family, it's about rustic, it's about nature, it's about something that's the opposite of synthetic and artificial. Also floral, this is another trend that is not slowing down at all. It continues and continues and continues across all areas of design, in all different silhouettes, in colorways. So you can see it in every shape and size and what have you. The desire to be in nature is also greatly increased in tandem with our digital world, but we've also come to realize how spending time in nature positively influences our physical health as well as our spiritual health. So this is the other side of it, it's our spiritual health, it's our emotional well-being. We want to take care of ourselves physically, but everything works together. It's not just I'm going to take care of myself one way. Everything's connected. So really now focusing a little bit more on the spiritual, nurturing our own spirituality, and committing to making a more conscious effort to live a more balanced life. It's another area that we think is, I've been talking about it not here because I don't often speak here, but I think back to myself probably for the past 3 years, but now I think it's taking on greater urgency. Our definition of spiritualism in the 21st century is all about connection. It's about connection to ourselves. It's about connection to others, and you can see this word of community. It's about connection to the wider environment. We're seeing members of new tribes and communities using spiritual practices and the exploration of nature to tap into new ideas that are more holistic, more meaningful than those that are bounded by work and everyday life. Yes, work and everyday life is important, but this is something that's a little bit more expansive than that, a little bit larger size, shall we say. Nurturing our own spirituality and committing to wider philosophies and values of individuals, we become part of something larger, a broader whole that we hope can change the world as well as ourselves for the better. Taking a reflective and introspective approach to spirituality, a group that we call mindful essentialists, their attitude reflects this growing desire to strip back, pare down, and in general, just to act more consciously. The ethos here is one of have nothing in your life that you do not know to be useful or believe to be beautiful. It's all about quiet craftsmanship, natural durability, elegant functionality. As I said at the beginning of this presentation, functionality is such a key word for design today. This is a look that's devoid of ostentation. It's a look that pays deep reverence to organic matter. Those who are attracted to the supernaturalist category tend to be fascinated by fantasy and mysticism. Another whole area of exploration, and for Pantone, is the theme or the mantra, whatever it is, for our forecast for autumn-winter 21-22, so the next level. So here too, pay attention to this. This is not going away. Seduced by narrative, it's mythology and symbolism. These people believe in the guidance of ancestral wisdom. The look is one of age magnificence as modernity fuses with historical references and tradition. The now age is something also I've been talking about for a long time. This just continues to grow. This is a way to disconnect from contemporary stresses and reinstall that sense of balance. The appreciation for this philosophy is reinforced by the widespread adoption of alternative remedies and the relaxation of attitudes towards marijuana, which you guys know, anybody who lives here or knows what's going on, is spurring new industries, including edibles and apps, services, specialist media, and home accessories. I did a presentation recently for hospitality, and there's a cannabis-themed hotel that's set to open next year. I personally found that fascinating because you think of, here's this little business that has blossomed into so many other different things, and they'll take you on tours of how it's grown and all the different kind of marijuana that you can try. Anyway, I just thought it was interesting, not appropriate necessarily for this group, but just one more offshoot of where this is leading. So ad hoc and laid back, the aesthetic for this is relaxed, it's unpretentious, something reflected as we see in the use of these very earthy natural tones, as well as the mixing of natural indigos. Hyper-connected and typically digitally native, energy explorers think sanctuary and convivial wellness activities. They've grown up in this era of empowerment, self-exploration, self-expression, something which is reflected in their pursuit of community and their focus on achieving 360 degrees of well-being and desire to immerse themselves in positive energy. Replicating the boundlessness of digital environments, playful finish and surface effects include iridescence here, refraction and reflection, all of which give agility and life to color. So again, it's getting away from that flatness, giving something more texture. The goal of the Conscious Guyan is to bring the natural symbiosis that exists between people and nature back to the forefront. This is a group that's committed to being resourceful, active, and fit. They're seeking transformative experiences that, whether in a rural setting or in an urban setting, connects them to the earth and humanity's primal roots. And as would be expected, the palette here is inspired by colors that exist naturally in the outdoors. So again, those burnt oranges. And then there is Nixon. Are you guys familiar with this? Another trend from the Netherlands. So we keep cycling through all these different trends from the Netherlands. So first there was Hygge, which was the Danish concept that made staying in and getting cozy really cool. Then there was Lagom, which was the Swedish mindset of approaching life with a everything in moderation mindset. But Nixon literally means to do nothing. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Be idle. Do something completely unuseful. So again, get back to that 24/7 lifestyle. Maybe now becomes 23/7. Find an hour to just do nothing. So embraced as a way to combat our increasingly busy and often stressful lives. Practicing Nixon could be as simple as just hanging around, looking at your surroundings, or listening to music, as long as it's without purpose and not done in order to achieve something or in order for you to be productive. You need to disconnect. You are more productive when you do take that time to disconnect. So this is a way of saying, hey, I need to do this for myself to stay healthy. As more and more people strive to make their voices heard, they're using their creativity to create platforms, drawing on playfulness, humor, and color to effectively get their message across. This is especially the case for those generations that have grown up in a more socially conscious society, savvy and intelligent. They share the belief that the future is theirs to design. Feeling empowered to create change, they're ready to take responsibility and are taking positive action to design their own futures. From raising awareness of the threat of the coral reef crisis and the impact this will have on our ecosystem and other aspects of our natural environment, to highlighting issues such as mental health that should not be ignored, leveraging the simplicity, the uniformity, and universality of color to symbolize a movement makes sense in our visual culture. Used well and in line with the message you want to convey, the language of color is highly impactful and easier to understand than just an image or a slogan on its own. Frenetic, expressive, and unapologetic, vibrant rebellion is driven by the uprising of an activist generation determined to take back ownership of the future. The approach of embellished everything displays a frenzy of pigment and pattern and texture in strong and vibrant shades. Crafted and eclectic, a politically savvy generation of eco-activists are revisiting the whole peace and love movement of the 1960s, with more people buying into the ideas of small batch and local production and handmade goods and craft. There is this backlash against mass production. Natural and reclaimed materials are front and center, a movement that's also being driven by, as you know, concerns about the environment. Celebrating this whole idea that one person's trash is another person's treasure, designers are rejecting new materials in favor of those which have already lived at least one life to create their products. Again, some of these things are not new, and really what I'm focusing on, these things are continuing to accelerate. That's the important. These are not fads. These are trends that continue to grow and will continue to grow further into the future. So creating an assemblage aesthetic that appears more ad hoc and spontaneous. This approach, once more present in niche and independent brands, has begun to filter into large-scale manufacturing as many big brands, producers, and manufacturers start to recognize the impact and the importance of today's widespread environmental awakening. Going back to the whole craft thing, there is this growing demand for hand-knitted, hand-woven, hand-built products that display the unique irregularity of natural materials. So this could be silhouette, this could be color, and again, the material itself, a design direction born from the desire to make few but better pieces that are intended to be loved and treasured for generations, has less impact on our environment. Something that I'm not talking about so much here, and I'm digressing for one moment before I get back here. Our current issue of Viewpoint Color, which has just come out, is all about color-free curation. It's all about this. So, I mean, I watch the trend and what we're talking about continue just to grow and grow and grow. One of the big pushes we'll continue to see is the creation of sustainable product from waste materials. This is Off Paris, who's teamed up with Recycled Leather and Vanatex to launch sneakers free from virgin plastics. Sustainable alternatives are created from waste materials with one repurposed end-of-life tire, making 3 sets of the brand's trademark soles. Recycled leather uppers made of upcycled offcuts from a local glove factory are then lined with Vanatex, a sustainable beeswax-coated canvas. To further reduce the environmental impact, the collection keeps to the monochrome palette of the original recycled tires with off-white, natural gum, and black options. Many are talking about, especially in Europe, this whole return to a real monochrome palette because of that, because it's all about the natural color and not using dye stuffs to infect the environment. I hate to put it like that, especially as a color standard company, but that's the reality. You know, that's the reality. We look at Bullabak with this new t-shirt created with plants and algae that started out as pulped eucalyptus and beech from sustainably managed forests. Taking 12 weeks to fully biodegrade at the end of its useful life, the t-shirts are colored using algae formed in a bioreactor, and it fades over time, challenging the demand for uniformity and longevity to what we see as conventional dyeing processes. So we get back to the whole thing about irregularity and unique and more natural looking. With a product line by this company that also includes the indestructible 100-year hoodie and solar charged jacket, which can be charged by exposure to almost any light source, Bullabak is producing some of the most advanced, yet footprint-conscious adventure gear in the market. Adidas is taking the lead on a lot of their processes. Campus 80S, Maker Lab by Adidas brings together global design talent in a melting pot of creativity, collaboration, and exchange. Challenging experimental sneaker designs to recreate the brand's cult Campus 80s style from ideation to manufacture in just 10 days. And they're really cool looking. So each designer that's pulled into this project deconstructs and reconstructs already existing colored materials to come up with their designs. And as I was mentioning, that's the focus of our next issue of Viewpoint 6, all about the curation. What's out there? What can we pull together to make something new so it doesn't just trash the environment? When we look at True Color, another Adidas program, it's a conscientious design process that aims to reduce environmental impact at every level of apparel manufacturing by encouraging the use of materials in their purest form, stripping out all unnecessary processes and finishing techniques, focusing on the industry-wide challenge to adopt creativity as a catalyst for change. The True Color capsule collection features superior technical fabrics from brands such as Walmart and Gore-Tex in their raw and undyed state. So here too, I get back into that very raw and natural looking palette. Every decision from design to production is a considered choice. We're seeing other companies going one step further by converting old clothing and discarded fabrics into new fibers that can be used to make recyclable fabric for clothing in a variety of materials, including nylons. And seeing new technologies that can transform molecules taken from polyester, cellulose, and cotton and transform them into raw materials. The latest innovation in sustainable footwear from Reebok is the Forever Float Ride Grow performance shoes. This vegan style replaces traditional sneaker materials with natural alternatives, including castor bean oil, eucalyptus tree, algae, and natural rubber. Again, a natural color palette supports this design aesthetic. I think what was interesting to me in putting together this presentation is some of the things that are driving this, and what I found particularly interesting was that it's athletes, or those athletes who are moving to plant-based diets to improve their performance, are some of the key reasons why we see companies making these changes, because as they also become interested in the moral issues around consuming meat, they're looking to align the clothes they work out or compete in with their ethical viewpoints. We continue to see brands such as Patagonia taking steps on the manufacturing side to reduce their environmental impact and create circular models, creating sustainable printed materials using algae offset ink, which is a byproduct from algae that's been grown for spirulina as a substitute for petroleum-based inks. Given the absorbent nature of our skin, could the substances used in the clothing have an impact on our health? We see concerns over the potential harm caused by chemical textile dyes, and we're seeing different designers proactively exploring the medicinal potential of using organic plant dyes, pigments like sage and rosemary and chamomile, which are known for their healing properties. This new collection is called Herbs, which makes sense. The clothing rental model, another way conscious consumers are looking at environmental impact. They want to become more circular. We've seen this at every level of the market. What was interesting to me here is that this is Kaz doing this in China. So this is something which, in an area where there's so much consumption, can this type of model work? They're trialing it. So I think it'll be interesting to see how this works. They feel this is better done at Kaz because the clothing is more expensive than at H&M. Looking quickly at some other trends, the technical benefits of performance fabrics and finishes are being embraced by more mainstream manufacturers. So here you have something that blurs the line between denim, casual, and activewear. We're seeing merino wool blends and water repellent treatments applied to board shorts, something we wouldn't expect to see. So again, it's about durability, but it's also about versatility and how we live today. Providing seamless crossover to move towards the hyper-functional, offers greater flexibility and adaptability as products are suited to multiple end uses. So again, we get back into that functionality, and versatility is just one piece of functionality. When we talk about the sport influence, this focus is not a surprise, and it was only really a matter of time as the love affair between fashion and sport not only becomes even more important, but also our fascination with extreme sport continues to grow. I'm trying to watch my time, so I'm going to look to speed this up, so I apologize for that. I want to just share with you a couple of trends that are more specific to this market, and then move into a broader trend forecast, if that's okay. So here we're looking at Regenesis, and this is focusing on autumn-winter 21-22. And this focuses on design solutions around future textiles and, again, sustainability. As our understanding of nature continues to evolve, we're exploring how plants and raw materials and technology can be combined to form technically advanced processes and sustainable materials. This is highlighting designs that combine organic and technical, including bio-based materials, and harnessing non-wash finishes that are kinder to the environment. And you can see this clearly in the product that's displayed. We're seeing a lot more of an appreciation for outdoor activities, including foraging and fishing. This is also part of this move for sustainability and well-being. So foraging explores this renewed appreciation for the great outdoors and its many wild resources, which not only provide nourishment and renewable materials, but also escapism and exercise for both body and mind. It's sincere, it's honest. This is about heritage checks and traditionally inspired silhouettes coming through as elements of traditional outdoor wear combined with contemporary athleisure and streetwear. In All Play, this is about immersive and inclusive experiences designed to stimulate the senses, utilizing music and lighting and set design, color and pattern to transport us to alternate worlds, so we get back into that whole 3D thing and multisensorial experiences in All Play. Inspired in part by synesthesia, All Play fuses technical sportswear with edgy streetwear and practical performance mid-layers and outerwear. Simplification and efficiency epitomizes the optimum theme. The drive to live our best possible lives at peak performance is fueling the development of designs that save time, save space and resources through enhanced quality and functionality. This is a stripped-back athleisure aesthetic featuring integrated functional details, redefining clothing as tools, bringing performance and wear to every day. And then this datascapes, which weighs up the pros and cons of AI and big data technology, observing how it both offers support and enhancement in all areas of our lives, while also hindering productivity and invading privacy. So how do you deal with that balance? There's a growing movement to highlight online vulnerability in niche products, encouraging anonymity, privacy, and escapism from the digital world are entering the market, designed specifically to counteract snooping devices. In this trend, streetwear staples are given a techie edge as discreetly rebellious undertones come through in exaggerated utility styling details. Going back to Botanica for Spring/Summer 21, looking first at the color story, we've seen a lot of drama in recent season. 2021 is about more natural color, more quiet color, influenced by raw dye stuffs and recycling, as we've been talking about. And while neons no longer occupy a full commanding role, reflecting its association with nature, there are some bursts of very vibrant, bright color, just as we see outside in nature with the bloom of florals. We also see equally important, color is never independent, colors with texture and material and finish. It's a package. Don't ever think of anything independently of one another. Please don't design independently of one another, because everything influences everything else. And also, like we were talking about, reflecting nature is the amount of color variation we're seeing. There are no flat colors in nature. And now that digital technology has mastered the subtleties of this process, degrade color as well as more organic color looks are a key presence. So if we look first at the pinks, we see a range from pale petal pinks and softer water rose shades to a more exotic fuchsias. Pinks divide into two directions, either towards the blue family or with a red family that still includes these warming coral-like pink shades. Bright and bold oranges are infused with energy, while those with a more golden brown undertone convey our continued desire for more natural organic color. Yellows also continue to migrate into two different color families, the first towards the greener side, the second towards more what we would call dusted and dry golden cereal hues. Like pink, red continues its popularity. Spring/Summer 21 reds reflect the wide array of color we see in nature, leaning orange or pink or purple, more away from the classic reds. Reminiscent of mushroom hues and all the beautiful brown tones of fungi, browns appear lighter and softer for Spring/Summer 21. Blues have a fresh, sparkly essence to them, and as in the natural world, come in a myriad of hues, from the heavenly light to the deepest blue of a Mediterranean sky, and from the palest tone of forget-me-nots and flax to the sunniest of cornflowers. So here we are, back to the greens. So although part of our grand vision for several seasons and something we've obviously been emphasizing, From our point of view, greens are only now coming into their stride, and we see them arching over a huge range of hues that reflect the vast ecosystem we see in nature. We have three different looks to the greens. Our first is very natural, reflecting the power and richness of nature. Then we have our cacti-inspired shades, dry and dehydrated in appearance. These greens have almost a gray or a brown influence. And then there are the more unreal, what I would almost call synthetic greens. They appear to be infused with chlorophyll. They're biosynthetic. There's almost this unreal feeling to them, reflecting what's taking place digitally. These yellow greens highlight the importance of finding the right kind of balance between synthetic and technical approaches with a more natural approach. Though not as important as in previous season, lilacs and purple do continue to play a role, showing up in calmly stated pastels and brighter floral hues. White, a constant summer basic, has now grown into a major story, reflecting our desire for a purer life, one with fewer complications, bringing simplicity, transparency, and lightness to the fore. In the same way that there's no true black in the plant world, the blacks in our palette are not true blacks. Our blacks this season are less harsh, appearing very grayed down. And again, if you go back to we're living in this harsher world, we're seeing the blacks become a little bit softer, the whites becoming a little bit softer. And lastly, the grays, which still have massive influence, working as a sounding board and enhancing the value of any other colors with which they're grouped. Looking first at our palettes, looking at this world that teaches us how to be flexible, how to adapt, how to be resilient, how to live with less toxicity, and more cooperation and hope. We start first with fungi, a story of four soft and quiet neutral shades that serve as the building blocks for the season. This is a palette that blends timelessness with modernity. It's a natural color story of mushroom shades that really lends itself well to natural materials as well as high-tech fabrications. In our first harmony, you can see how these four colors are joined by a clay neutral and a new violet breeze shade, creating this graduated color-tinted range from pale to mid-tone that almost reveals a naturally shifting ombre look. Cool Touch is our second harmony here, so you see these same four key colors surrounded by airy blues, bringing clarity and freshness to the palette, and it's a shrewd interpretation of a modern classic. Products here are delicate and mutable with these mushroom-like qualities. Finishes are raw and matte with mycelium-like textures that are springy and resilient and provide soft cushioning and comfort to pleats and sponge-like forms, rounded volumes, rounded frames. And these are things, again, that we've been talking about for the last couple of years. But again, you go back to this whole idea of harshness, and you want things that are soft and are comforting, and rounded shapes give you that feeling. Things that are just not as... things that are springy. Looking at lichen, our second grouping, it's a group of four colors that express naturalness and refinement. This appears almost monochromatic. It's a combination of an attenuated mud, a withered leather, yellow green, and a luminous ochre. It's well suited for organic materials and the perfect palette for a look that's more minimalist. In our first harmony, it's called Symbiosis. You see these woodsy brown shades. We're pulling the bark of trees, being added to our four core colors, creating this timeless and intergenerational color story suitable for what we would call a new concept of urban mobility. While in dry zone, we see brick colors and rusty oranges lighting up the brown surfaces of ancient tree trunks and the grays of prehistoric rock. Products, obviously, have a very natural, organic feel. Surface and textures can be imperfect. They look handcrafted or corroded by time, oxidation, it's rusted, patina effects, open weaves, natural tech, bleached bark, and the essence of wood. Fragrance, as would be expected, is a palette of floral pastel shades. Strong and energetic, the fluorescent dynamism creates a powerful presence. In our first harmony, which is called Intoxicating, we add two more strong pastel shades by way of an apple green and an amber orangey yellow, creating this whole story of what we would call richly perfumed colors, whose invigorating strength mesmerize and envelop the senses. In Ephemeral, the fragrant pastels move into a more delicate and tender realm with the addition of a pale and elusive green essence and a blanc de blanc, and the replacement of the sunny celandine with a more muted yellow-green margarita. All in all here, the color feel is completely in the opposite direction. It's quiet, immaterial and almost vaporous. Product we see a contemporary vibe, feeling highlighted by modern materials, a new femininity. It's confident, it's bold. Fresh corals tell a story of summer joy. It's a lively ambiance that comes through in shimmering and glossy and glowing finishes that display lightness, transparency, and a chromatic iridescence. Plantoid, uncompromising ambassadors for the power of nature. This is a story of green grays and deep greens of the sequoia forests, combined with an energetic, chlorophyll-inspired hues that typify spring growth. In Walden, we broaden this green spectrum, creating a palette that also includes a synthetic apple green, an iron gray, and a muted brown, highlighting our relationship with the environment at the same time, developing these connections between nature and technology. I know I'm moving very quickly. It's more because of the time. I know you're taking pictures. You should. Good. Because that's what's going to tell you the story more than me. Tech Veg, art meets science, and a color story that sees 3 of the shades in our core palette, surrounding by a dense and saturated brown, a mustard yellow, and an acidic, almost fluo yellow. Product here, again, art meets science. That's what this palette is about. These products in the palette display these plant connections. They bring new meaning to this concept of authenticity. Colors are pharmaceutical and do look to be chlorophyll infused. We see green monochromes, prints with plant leaves and flowers, man-made nature, and dine with chlorophyllin. Another floral palette, Bouquet, features soft and delicate medium bright shades, celebrating kindness and love of the everyday. Bouquet offers an aesthetic that's a little bit retro, a little bit camp, infusing a contemporary vibe into something that's a little bit more old-fashioned. Posh Modern is a charming and soulful range of colors, highlighting tenderness and kindness and empathy as the new values of modernity. And in Afro Flow, we integrate the primitive with the modern, screaming of freedom and spontaneity, which results in this whole polarized sense of expression. A global and eclectic mix of floral colors and combinations that are additionally augmented through their integration of the primitive and the modern characterize the products that we see in Bouquet with an ethos that everything can be used and all materials are beautiful. Handmade products as well as recycled materials are used to create this innovative aesthetic. All in all, a story of anything goes with no color, no material, and no silhouette restraints. Transplants gives us a saturated range of 4 plant-inspired colors, and you look at how classic these shades are, right? So that's also very interesting to see. In other worlds, the plant world takes over and flowers cross-pollinate, creating new possibilities for a sustainable future. Altered states to fluo colors add dynamic energy, creating a more muscular interpretation of the real world. The product story here is amplified, it's provocative, and yet it's still coming from nature. It's hyper-decorated and empowering. We see these hyper blooms, power patterning, jungle looks, and a plethora of prints. Tincture is a palette of familiar and honest plant-based shades, emblematic of our primal desires to connect to nature and what is real. In Forage, our first harmony, our plant-based colors blend and merge, reaching out in many different directions, but at the same time, these therapeutic tints are tied together through their life-giving properties. In Brood, we replace real teal and fern to create a story comprised of warm hues of coffee and walnut brown, mixing with a purple carrot and a black grape. And as would be expected for product in this palette, finishes are inspired by ancient skills and traditions. We see a lot of painterly looks, color merges and blends, tie-dyes and random markings, and the overall look and feel is one of handcrafted one-offs that are created sustainably. Succulent is inspired by thick and fleshy plants. It's a very cool color story, suggestive of the dry leaves of the succulent plants. Bringing in a little bit of warmth is our introduction of 2 pinks, one dusted, the other darker and more smoke, so taking this in a different direction. This is a story of curved lines and softness. Again, I can't emphasize that enough, this whole idea of softness, as we go forward and move away from things that are more harsh. And Spiky replaces the pinks with a duo of brown inflected olive and caramel shades, making for a more tonal palette with less hard contrast. Lines here are less curved, they're a little bit more angular and asymmetrical, but still you don't see a harshness in design. Products here displayed in supersized silhouettes, quilted, they're stuffed, they're felted, wrapping and pleating, help to add a layered dimension. Looks can appear otherworldly and add futuristic appearing protection. Practicality is key, comfort and movement here is extremely important, and materials are performance driven. Serving as a transitional bridge, this is our last palette. We typically in our Pantone View Color Planner forecast have palettes that either reach back to the season before, or reach ahead to the season ahead. So this is a palette that actually straddles both, reaching back to, I can't think of dates, autumn-winter 2021, but really more so serving as this transitional bridge into 21-22. So this is a palette called Spores. It's a palette of shade, each a variation of whites, from a cooler green-infused white to a heavy cream. Emblematic of our desire for a fresh start, the whites are an ideal color family capable of making their own statement, while at the same time serving as this ideal foundation onto which other colors can be layered. And I think the whites have also remained so important because, again, they reflect this all natural, this raw, this desire for things that are organic. I don't want to get into this. These are new products, polyester, new metallic shimmers. If you're not aware, these are recent product introductions that we've made. But where I want to go is here. In fashion design, we try to control everything, but you can't control a garden. You must obey it. And this was a saying from Dries Van Noten, really talking about fashion runway shows. But I think the message here is really about